Bee Balm, the herb you'll actually use. Most people walk past bee balm in the garden and barely notice it. They may admire the bright flowers, maybe even know it attracts bees and butterflies, but they don't always realize that this plant has a real place in herbal medicine too. And that's a shame, because bee balm is one of those herbs that is both beautiful and practical. It's colorful, fragrant, pollinator-friendly, and surprisingly useful for everyday herbal care. Whether you know it as bee balm, Monarda, wild bergamot, or Oswego tea, this is a plant with a long history and a lot to offer. In this video, we're going to talk about bee balm benefits, the different ways it can be used, how to grow it successfully, how to harvest and preserve it, and why this herb deserves a spot in your garden. If you enjoy herbal medicine, natural remedies, and growing your own healing plants, this is one herb you definitely want to know more about. What bee balm is. Bee balm is a flowering perennial herb in the mint family. That means it has the same general plant family traits as other aromatic herbs like peppermint, spearmint, lemon balm, and oregano. One of the things people usually notice first about bee balm is its unique flower shape and bold color. The blooms often come in red, pink, purple, or lavender shades, and they really stand out in the garden. But bee balm is more than just a pretty flower. The leaves are aromatic, the plant is useful, and the flowers attract some of the most beneficial pollinators you can invite into your yard. Bees love it, butterflies love it, and hummingbirds often visit it too. So even before we talk about the medicinal side, bee balm already earns its place as a valuable garden plant. Historically, bee balm has been used by Native American communities and later by herbalists for tea, respiratory support, and digestive wellness. It has a long traditional history, especially as a comforting herb for seasonal discomfort and everyday balance. Why people use bee balm. One of the reasons bee balm has stayed relevant for so long is because it is versatile. People use it for tea, steam, food, garden beauty, and pollinator support. That combination makes it especially appealing for anyone who wants plants that do more than just sit in the ground and look nice. If you like herbs that serve multiple purposes, bee balm is a great example. It can be grown in the garden, picked fresh for tea, dried for later, blended with other herbs, and used in simple homemade remedies. It is also the kind of herb that feels approachable, even if you're just getting started with herbal medicine. You do not need to be an expert herbalist to appreciate bee balm. A simple cup of tea or a handful of dried leaves can be a great way to begin. Respiratory support. One of the most common traditional uses of bee balm is for the respiratory system. People often turn to bee balm tea when they want something soothing for the throat and chest, especially during cold weather or seasonal changes. Its aromatic nature makes it a pleasant herb to inhale and drink. A warm tea can feel especially comforting if you're dealing with a scratchy throat, dryness, or that heavy feeling that often comes with congestion. Bee balm has been used in traditional herbal practices for colds, flu, sore throats, and general upper respiratory discomfort. It's not meant to replace medical care, but it can be a supportive herb when you want something simple and natural in your routine. Digestive support. Bee balm is also valued for digestion. In herbalism, it is often thought of as a carminative herb, which means it may help reduce gas, bloating, and stomach discomfort. If you've ever eaten too much, felt sluggish after a meal, or had that uncomfortable full feeling, a cup of bee balm tea can be a gentle option. Traditional herbal use often includes bee balm for indigestion, nausea, cramping, and digestive upset. This is one reason bee balm is such a practical herb. It is not just for one issue. It can be helpful in more than one part of your wellness routine. Relaxation and comfort. Bee balm is also the kind of herb many people enjoy, simply because it feels supportive. It has an uplifting aroma and a pleasant taste, which makes it a nice herb for winding down. Some people like to drink bee balm tea in the afternoon or evening as part of a calming routine. It can feel like a small moment of self-care, especially when combined with other soothing herbs like chamomile or lemon balm. This is one of the reasons herbal teas are so popular. They're not only about the herb itself, but also about the ritual of slowing down and making time for yourself. Antimicrobial tradition. Bee balm has also been traditionally associated with antimicrobial use, largely because of its aromatic compounds. While herbal traditions often highlight its usefulness for cleansing and supporting the body, it's important to remember that herbs work best as part of a healthy lifestyle rather than as a quick fix. Still, this is one more reason bee balm has earned attention from herbalists for generations. It has a strong traditional reputation and a pleasant flavor, which makes it easy to keep in regular use. How bee balm tastes. If you've never tried bee balm tea before, you might be wondering what it tastes like. The flavor is usually described as minty, slightly spicy, and a little citrusy, depending on the variety and how it was grown. Some people compare it to a mix between oregano, mint, and bergamot. That aromatic quality is part of what makes it so enjoyable. Because of the flavor, bee balm can be used on its own or blended with other herbs. If you want a more mellow tea, you can combine it with chamomile. If you want something refreshing, try it with peppermint or lemon balm. If you want a citrusier feel, bee balm works well with herbs that have a lighter, fresher profile. How to use bee balm. Bee balm is one of those herbs that can be used in several simple ways at home. The most common and practical use is tea. Fresh or dried leaves and flowers can be steeped in hot water for several minutes. A simple starting point is 1 tablespoon of fresh bee balm or 1 teaspoon of dried bee balm, steeped in 1 cup of hot water for 5 to 10 minutes. Strain and drink warm. You can adjust the strength depending on your taste. If you want a stronger tea, steep it a little longer. If you want a lighter flavor, use less herb or shorten the steep time. There are links in the description to help you find the tea if you want to try it. Bee balm tea is one of the easiest ways to bring this herb into your daily routine. You can drink it on its own, add honey, or blend it with other herbs depending on what you're looking for. Another simple use is as a steam inhalation. This method is often used when people want a soothing aromatic experience for the head and chest. You place a handful of fresh bee balm leaves in a bowl, pour hot water over them, and carefully inhale the steam with a towel draped over your head. This can feel especially comforting during colder months or whenever you want something warm and fragrant. Bee balm can also be used in the kitchen. The leaves have a flavor that works well in small amounts in salads, fruit dishes, syrups, infused honey, and herbal drinks. You don't need to use a lot. Bee balm has a strong personality, so a little goes a long way. That's actually part of the charm. It can bring a unique herbal note to recipes without overwhelming them. Herbal preparations. If you enjoy making your own herbal remedies, bee balm can be dried and stored for later use. It can also be infused into honey, made into an herbal syrup, or combined with other medicinal herbs and blends. Some people use it in homemade salves or infused oils, especially when they want to preserve the plant's aromatic qualities. Even if you're only making tea, drying bee balm is still a smart way to extend its use through the year. Growing bee balm. Now let's talk about growing it because this is where bee balm really shines. Bee balm is a hardy perennial, which means once it is established, it can come back year after year. That alone makes it a worthwhile plant for anyone trying to build a useful herb garden. It grows best in full sun, though it can handle a little afternoon shade in hotter climates. It prefers well-drained soil and does well when planted in an area with good air circulation. A little compost can help it get off to a strong start, and consistent watering is helpful while the plant is getting established. Once mature, bee balm is fairly resilient. A good spacing guideline is about 18 to 24 inches apart. That gives the plants room to grow and helps reduce crowding, which is important because bee balm can be susceptible to mildew if airflow is poor. One of the most beautiful things about bee balm is how much pollinators love it. If you want to create a garden that supports local wildlife, bee balm is an excellent choice. The flowers attract bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds, which makes it a standout plant for pollinator gardens. That means bee balm gives back in two ways. It provides beauty and herbal usefulness for you, and nectar and habitat support for pollinators. That's one reason so many gardeners love it. It is functional, ecological, and visually striking all at once. If you like the idea of a garden that feels alive and active, bee balm is a great herb to include. Growing tips. If you want your bee balm to thrive, there are a few simple tips that can help. First, make sure it has enough room. Crowded bee balm is more likely to develop issues like powdery mildew. Good air circulation is important. Second, keep the soil evenly moist but not soggy. Bee balm likes moisture, but it does not want to sit in water. Third, deadhead spent blooms if you want to encourage more flowering and keep the plant looking tidy. Fourth, divide mature plants every few years if they start to get too dense. This can help refresh the plant and keep it productive. And finally, choose a location where pollinators can easily find it. Bee balm does best when it's part of a lively, sun-filled garden space. There is a link in the description to help you find bee balm seeds. Harvesting and drying bee balm. Harvesting bee balm is simple, but timing matters. The best time to harvest is usually in the morning after the dew has dried. That's when the plant is fresh and aromatic. You can snip the leaves and flowers with clean scissors and use them immediately or dry them for later. If you are harvesting for tea, the leaves and flowers are both useful. Some people prefer the flowers for their appearance and aroma, while others focus on the leaves for more volume. A healthy plant can usually handle regular trimming, and in some cases, harvesting can even encourage the plant to produce more growth. Drying bee balm is easy and helps preserve it for future use. You can bundle small stems together and hang them upside down in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place out of direct sunlight. Once the leaves and flowers are fully dry, store them in an airtight container. Glass jars work well, especially if you keep them in a dark cupboard away from heat and moisture. Properly dried bee balm can be kept for tea, herbal blends, and simple home remedies later on. This is one of the best parts about growing your own herbs. You get to use them fresh in season and dried when you need them most. Bee balm in a home apothecary. If you're building a simple home apothecary, bee balm is a great herb to include. It is easy to grow, easy to dry, and easy to use. That makes it ideal for beginners and experienced herb lovers alike. You don't need fancy equipment to use it. Just a cup, hot water, and a few dried leaves can give you a useful herbal tea. Why it deserves more attention. Bee balm is often overlooked because people first notice the flowers and not the medicine. but once you understand its uses, it starts to feel like a hidden gem. It supports the respiratory system, helps with digestion, tastes pleasant in tea, attracts pollinators, and grows reliably in the garden. That combination is hard to beat. If you're trying to grow a garden that is both beautiful and useful, Bee Balm deserves a place near the top of your list. Here is a simple way to start using Bee Balm at home. You can make a cup of tea in the morning when you want something aromatic and uplifting. You can drink it after meals if your stomach feels heavy, or you can enjoy it in the evening as a calming herbal ritual. You do not need to overcomplicate it. Just use the plant in a way that feels natural and sustainable for your lifestyle. That is really the heart of herbal medicine, learning how to use plants in everyday life, not just admiring them from a distance. So, if you've been looking for one herb that is beautiful, practical, and genuinely useful, Bee Balm may be exactly what you need. Don't forget about the links in the description. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and share. I share these videos because I believe simple, natural knowledge should be easy to understand and easy to apply in everyday life. Thanks for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next Nurture by Nature video.